Hello and welcome back to the show. Today I am actually super excited. I know I say this with everyone, but I'm so excited for today's guest, and you are in for such a treat. I hope she won't mind me saying that before we got on this call, I kind of said to her that she is the epitome of the modern leader in my eyes, and just a beacon of positivity and joy. And I'm so happy that she's here to share her success story in career earlier on in life, but also in business. And also to kind of like draw back the curtain on perhaps some of the life stuff that life's as we go through this kind of career journey. And I know that I've heard her tell parts of her story before, and she is so open and real and raw and vulnerable that I just feel like you're just going to really resonate on a deep level. So I thank her in advance for wherever this goes. And I welcome Ali Mortimer.
Hello. Okay. You know what? You nearly set me off again because when you sent me that this morning, I was in like massive self-sabotage. Just like I haven't felt in such a long time. I'm crying already. It's turning my mind. But I was in such a weird kind of space, in that real confusing place of, oh my God, I've just achieved something that I never thought was achievable. And in doing so, I've like dissolved so many of the core beliefs that I'd written for myself. And I was in this like weird funk. And you sent me that message, and I just had ugly tears in the showers before I came on here. I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was like, oh my God, of course it was today. Of course it was today that we were coming to speak about this. But in some ways it's so important to talk about that sabotage, because I think it's so relevant to so many women and men on their journeys of wherever they're going to, and just part of the cycle, the revolution of whatever it is that we're trying to create in our lifetimes. And I just think, oh my God, just the feeling of it this morning was just like it's all happened so quickly. And I think there's going to be so much of it that's going to come out. And I drew in my diary as I came out, kind of like the journey that I thought we could go on. It's just like this weird scribble. I don't think anybody else would understand it except me.
Oh my God, I love that. Are you able to give us a little sneak peek as to what this is?
We want to see it. I really won't see it. But it was this feeling. Well, I can show it to you because it's right here, Emma. Look, like just this what I drew. It's just like this piece. And I did a talk at I was invited to come in and speak at an amazing event. It was the Women's Wealth and Wellbeing Day in Grantley Hall in February. And I didn't know how I wanted to talk about it, but it came very strongly through to me from a quote that I remembered reading. And it was almost like it fell out of my book again. It was like, oh, that's the angle I want to take. And it's just like, you have been given this mountain so that you can show others that it can be moved. And I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about my mountains. And today in the shower, it was like, talk about your mountains. And I was like, okay, talk about my mountains. And what I mean by that is that I feel through both my work journey and my life journey, there have been several mountains that I've almost had to like scale. But what came through me in the shower this morning was that every mountain I've scaled, I've then kind of been pulled back down off the mountain to climb another mountain. So it's like I've been climbing up and down this mountain range where I have learned so much. And what I think is so interesting, just before we came on, we were talking about human design and how we might want to pull this in. And I know you know about human design, and perhaps some of the listeners may or may not know, but I am a generator with the sacral authority line 3-6. And when I was told that 2 years ago, I can see you nodding, is like, the reason why I went up and down all of these mountain peaks was my line 3. I was playing and learning and transitioning through so much. And I've got to this point now where the sabotage in me earlier was just like, I don't think I can climb another mountain. I don't have it in me. I don't have the youth and the energy to climb another mountain. And I was just like, the revelation was, you don't have to climb another mountain. You can stay on this mountain. You can take the fucking chairlift to the top and to wherever you want to go. And I was like, oh my God, I hit my line 6.
I was going to say, that's your line 6 coming in, right?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Oh,
Oh, I love that. And I love that because I think so many people, and funnily enough, did you choose that jumper on purpose?
No,
The mountains.
oh my God, I did as well, didn't I? Look at it. Subliminal. It was just
Totally
like, oh my God, I
subliminal.
didn't even realize. No, but yeah, how amazing representation of what we've just been talking about. And like a
Oh,
lifeline, it's just like boom, boom, boom,
yeah,
boom, from the heart. And
entirely.
you've got love. I mean, God.
And anyone that's listening and not looking, you can always head over to YouTube and catch us on video if you want to. But Ali's got a zigzag across a
Yeah.
bright pink top, which is both of our signature
Oh,
colours.
hot
We
pink
love a
was,
bit of
yeah,
pink, and I've also got
love
my
it.
I've got a bit of lightning bolt going on with my Scamp and Dude
Oh, I
pink
love Scampi too.
teacup. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that, because I think it sets the tone for the journey we're about to go on in terms of
Yeah,
learning more about some of those mountains that you've kind of conquered. And yeah, it's just not spoken about enough, I think. And I think this is it's at the point that a lot of women get to that stage where they're like, fuck, can I do that other mountain? And like, what is it all for? That they
yeah,
tend to stumble across my work or my podcast, and
yeah,
there's almost that permission, like you've just given, that you don't actually have to keep going. And there might be perhaps a left turn where there's a different view with a different mountain range that's actually more appealing, potentially. So
yeah,
why don't we take a step back? Because I was aware of like your business journey. I think I've followed you for the last few years, and like some of the twists and turns you've done in that, which have been awesome to follow. But I wasn't aware of the career that you had before that, in a like what probably feels like another lifetime ago. So why don't you give us a bit of a feel for like your career journey today, and then we'll dive into some of those like pivotal moments.
yeah. So, like, I was a good girl, typical good girl, got all the grades, got all of the scholarships, finished university, didn't know what I wanted to do, and kind of like fell into my career as an IT consultant in quite a beautiful way. But that's a story for another day. And I did that for, I think it was, well, at least a decade. I can't even remember the dates, but I did it for a good decade, possibly longer. I even want to say like 15, 20 years. I think it was 20 years. I stayed in corporate, I suppose. My consulting was probably the first decade of my corporate career. And I worked for, I don't know, am I allowed to say names?
Yeah,
It
cool.
started off as Anderson Consulting. So like one of the big ones in consulting that then became Accenture as it is known today. And I was in a really exciting field. It was all to do with retail and IT, which at the beginning of kind of like the noughties and the end of the 90s was revolutionary in terms of it was all going on to the internet. So for your younger listeners, they probably wouldn't even know that we used to do things on Excel spreadsheets and books, paper. It's just
Paper,
not
yeah.
on paper. It was like we were starting to bring everything into a centralized system in the retail space, and it was fascinating. One of my favorite projects was going down to work at New Look and literally just walking into this enormous shed that had clothes like flying around, and it was just like eye-opening. I was just like, oh my God, of course they all had to be somewhere before they got shipped to like my local Reading store. It was just like, it was so eye-opening. So I had this amazing journey, not only just starting to centralize systems in the retail space, but then obviously as we move through into the kind of like noughties, it started to become very much about building, online stores. It was moving out of the high street onto the store. So I worked on some of the pioneering projects there and how to deliver to store, which ultimately looked after us all in lockdown. It was just the most fascinating and exciting ride.
Yeah.
But I suppose if we're talking about like my personal journey and the mountains and things that go along it, it was just like I was climbing this mountain and it was amazing until I lost a baby. And I was presenting to the board of Argos Direct on how we were going to do something in a certain way. And I've just found myself crying, and my partner pulled me out. Partner who was sat in the room, he just walked me out and he said, Ali, I think you need to go home. And I never really allowed myself to grieve the loss of a very wanted baby. And I just went straight back to work, I think, as most people did.
Mm.
And they were amazing. I had grief counselling and sorted it out. But it was at the end of that I realised that I could no longer build a new life in Yorkshire and be a consultant running around the country. So I decided that I would stop and I would move into my next role, which was moving out of consulting and going into industry. So there were many retailers up in the north, and I chose to go and work with Asda in the big greenhouse in central Leeds. And again, that was a very exciting period of time, because they were just building or upgrading their online shopping systems. So I went in to go in and help them, and on my first day in the downstairs toilet, I found out I was pregnant with my first son. So I wasn't there for very long. And then I went back, and the same thing happened again. I found out on the day I went back I was pregnant with my second son, Willie. And so after that kind of like period of going through having babies, again, it was a very exciting time. But this time IT was changing in a very radical way. So rather than using Prince 2 methods for any people who are listening, it's like this kind of like design, build, test, and kind of like implementation could be quite a drawn out process. You couldn't do that for online because it was so immediate and so rapid. And I was asked to take a team aside and pull myself out of the IT centralized team and work alongside the strategy team to really do rapid development. And I had a small team in Leeds. I had a team of developers in the south of Europe, and we were coordinating with Walmart, which is obviously owns Asda, right? So we were running this team. It was amazing. It was so fun. I had the most incredible people working for me. Bearing in mind, I still had 2 small children at home, one who'd been very poorly and been failing to thrive and was in hospital. I was on this cycle of burnout every 3 months, trying to juggle everything, because I was working around the clock. America, like would wake up in my afternoon, I'd come home, put the kids to bed, cook supper, get back online. It was exhausting. So when I think about the mountain, what pulled me off that mountain as I got to my pinnacle, I remember the final conversation I had with the director of technology over in Walmart. And he said, Ali, you've done amazing work over there in the UK. Can you come over here and do it on a bigger scale in America? And I said, thank you very much. This is my letter of resignation. I've hit my peak. I'm knackered. I've got to go. I've left it in a good place. The team's great. Carry on. So I left and I came home, and I didn't know what I wanted to do at that point. And honestly, I had no idea. I was exhausted, and my mum wasn't well at the same time. Another thing is that was happening alongside, my mum had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's about 8 years before, and it was getting really bad. I had 2 small children. My husband was working away from home. It was just like I needed to take that like pause at the bottom of the valley and go, okay, what is next?
And there was no, like, were you in 2 minds, or was it just like a definite, no, I'm done?
I'm done. It was like, I am done. I need to find another way that I can, continue to look after my family, look after my health, but also, there's an element in me that I love to work. I'm a Capricorn, for God's sake. We were born to work. We were the grafters. It was just like, I'm born to do this, and I get so much fulfillment out of it. But I wanted to find a way that I could do it with everything. And it wasn't that easy to know what that looked like, because I've only ever been told that you get a job. Entrepreneur thing, never even crossed my mind to be for myself. So in that space, I was on a long period of gardening leave, and a friend of mine came to me and said, I've got this amazing business opportunity. Would you like to have a look at network marketing? And I was just like, I've never heard of that before. And I was like, okay, let's give it a go. And I was just like, why not? But do you know what? I look back now, and while network marketing wasn't necessarily for me in terms of the business model, what I learned in terms of health, it set me on a journey to understand holistic health. And I took myself off on this incredible journey. And thank goodness for YouTube and the books. And I went on this amazing journey to understand mental health, because my mum had Alzheimer's. So I wanted to understand, what do I do for me and my mind now in my 30s to look after me in my 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I went on this journey of understanding holistic health. And at the same time, I started to understand a lot more about spirituality. People were talking about it, and the people I was involved with, they were all talking about meditation. I was like, oh my God, what is that shit? What are they on? I was the biggest cynic. I was just like, someone handed me The Secret, and I put it on a cupboard and left it there for a couple of years. And then one day I picked it up and I was like, why did I not know this stuff? Why has no one told me about this? And I went on this other journey. So then I started going up this mountain again of, oh my God, this is amazing. And I started to learn more and more about health, and I created a really good established network marketing business. And when I was reaching the top of that, life has this tendency to pull you out again. So there I was being pulled back out. My mum was sadly taken into a mental institute and into a mental hospital. She was coming at my dad with knives. She was coming at people in the home with knives. She came at the policeman. So she was taken away, and it was heartbreaking. And then sadly, she died of pneumonia while she was there, and that was just, you know, devastating, a whole period of grief and loss for someone who was such a pivotal person in your life. And there was that kind of like then pulled me back down. And then I then talk about my rock bottom, which is when I got pulled even further down, where sadly my husband and I became a statistic of 75% of all marriages that, you know, go through infidelity. And I was literally floored by the whole experience. So not only was I coupled by grief and loss of just so many areas, you know, it was just like the grief and the loss of what I could have been in my corporate career if I didn't have children, and if I didn't have this. It was like what could have been. It was like the loss of this identity of this corporate professional woman that I'd always been told that I could have when I was younger. You know, the loss of being a daughter to my mum. You know, I don't think anyone could really understand, and I don't think I could ever understand it when friends of mine lost their parents. Until you lose that one person, it's an incredibly strange sensation. And then the whole of my future being just kind of like flawed in front of me, because what all the dreams that I'd had with my husband, who I'd started dating at 19, it was just like, well, what now? Because they're no longer. And I was diagnosed in that kind of like very deep valley with PTSD, clinical depression, insomnia, and eating disorders. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, let alone it was. I remember I was blogging at the time because someone said to me, you have been through and are going through so much and dealing with it incredibly, write a blog. So I'd started to write this blog called The Ali Sandwiches. And I was loving kind of like writing through that experience. But I remember writing on one particular day, I didn't feel like that I was at the bottom of a mountain anymore. I was at rock bottom underneath the surface of like the sea, looking up through the sea and a mountain that I was going to have to climb. And I think that's where I heard the story of you've been given this mountain so that you can show others to be moved. It can be moved. And I was like, right, I've got to get out from underneath this water first before I can climb the freaking mountain. And I went to the doctors and explained the situation of what was going on, and he said, well, you can have beta blockers, you can have antidepressants, you can have whatever you need in order to look after your kids. And I was just like, I don't think I want those. You know, I think I'm going to be all right. I've done all of this work on healing and holistic health, and I'm going to try and do it on my own. And if I need you, I'll come back, but I'm going to do it. And over the course of the next 12 months, I healed myself happy using holistic methods. And not only did I heal myself, but my husband and I healed our marriage, and we created an incredibly beautiful life. And it was like this first marriage that we'd created from being 19 to 40 was kind of like over, and we chose to start a new one as 40-year-olds. And it's been the most romantic, beautiful ride ever since.
I love hearing that, because it's like it's just got such a beautiful, it just shows another way, right? We just think there's only one solution to that kind of situation, especially given where you were with, I've got bloody tears now, with like your mental health and all of that stuff and the grief. It's like incredible that you guys pulled through, and just such a testament to your relationship and your love that you have now.
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of therapy, and I had a lot of help, and we had the most incredible marriage counselor. That sounds like such an awful word. She was more than that. She helped us through some of the most unbearable conversations that we never thought that we would have to do. But she just said, you know, a year later, she just said, there is a glue between the two of you that I don't understand, that not many people have. And that's what has kept us together, and a belief that we could do it, and we could overcome it, and we could forgive, and we could move on, and we could create a better life. When we look back now, and it just feels like unreal, it feels really unreal. So yeah, that's what went on. And at the end of that 12 months, you know, we'd moved house, we'd completely changed our lives, our social networks, we both changed jobs, careers, and we were in this beautiful house that we were renovating. It was almost like as we were doing heart and lung surgery on our own relationship, we were doing heart and lung surgery on this amazing house, you know, that was literally falling apart at the seams. And at the end of it, my dad just looked at me and he said, Ali, I'm so proud of you. What are you going to do next? And I was like, oh, that's a great question. Do you know what? I think I want to help people do what I've just been through. I said, you know what? I've been through so much in the last couple of years, you know, with my career and my health and my marriage and my life and my work. all condensed into this one thing. I want to be able to help other people heal themselves happy through whatever loss or grief that they go through. And in saying that, I was just like, oh my God, that's what I'm going to do. So I then went back and I retrained. So I'd learned all of this stuff and implemented all of this stuff in my life. I probably could have written the book at that point. In fact, there is a book, The Ali Sandwiches is a book. It's still out there somewhere.
Brilliant.
And I retrained as a holistic health coach. So I went back to school for 12 months and retrained with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. And then I did additional courses to become a meditation tutor, because that was like my medication throughout this whole period, and a mindfulness tutor. And I started my business in 2018, my first entrepreneurial business, called Heal Yourself Happy. And I started to help people be happy with whatever was going on. And obviously then we like hit the pandemic in 2020. I was dabbling at it. I was just like playing and just doing whatever. My husband said to me, "Go, Ali, you know what, you're really good at doing this, but you're not charging anyone any money, and you're going to have to do that." And I was like, okay. So I got a coach to teach me how to build a business and how to charge money and how to like build an online business. I'd never done it before. I'd worked for some of the biggest corporation in the world with Walmart and Asda in the UK. I'd worked in a network marketing company where pretty much everything was handed to you on a plate and all you had to do was get out there. And then it was just like, but now I've got to do everything. And I have no idea what everything is and looks like. So I worked with an amazing business coach, and she started to help me build a strategy. And we wrote the strategy in the beginning of, we wrote the strategy in January 2020, and we started going on that route. And then we had to rip it up in March 2020 and write a whole new one. But it was probably one of the most incredible experiences of my life, because at that point in time, everybody was looking for health and they were looking for happiness. And my strap line was, health and happiness is going to be paramount during this period of time. It's the one thing that's going to support you is happiness and health, and how can you create it? And my business literally just skyrocketed. And one of my clients was a director at Marks and Spencer's. And he was like, "Ali, can you just come in and calm my team down, because they're all freaking out?" I was like, yeah. And I just came on and, like, because he, out of goodwill, did a load of meditation and calming stuff for his team. And then it went around all of the other directors. They were like, "What are you doing? You need to come in and help us." And then suddenly I was doing it all over Marks and Spencer's social media channels and Healing a Nation. And so I was just like, it was an incredible peak. I was at this peak and I was like, oh my God, what's next? And what was next was people kept asking me, "How are you doing what you're doing?" And I was like, well, I don't really know. I'm just being me, doing me, talking about what I love. And I've got this amazing business coach who kind of directs me in what I'm meant to be doing. And I'm just doing that. And so people were like, well, can you teach us? So Em and I then created another business brand called The Limitless CEO. And she started talking about the strategic pieces. And I started talking about the mindset and the passion and the desire and all of the kind of like business energetics. And then that went like crazy in 2021. And then in 2022, I decided that I wanted to do more of the healing and the happiness. Lots of people were going back to work. And I kept getting calls from previous clients saying, "I'm super stressed. I don't know how to juggle what I'm doing, having after the pandemic, super stressed, super high level." So I was then working with people who on a business capacity, and I was working with people kind of like in the healing capacity. At the same time, my husband came in and sat on the chair behind me, and he just said, "Ali, I think I'm having a heart attack." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, he was going through a really, really stressful time, because I think this is like, for your listeners, it's not just easy. It's like, there's other stuff going on around. And he was just like, oh my God. And I was like, right, well, let's down tools. We need to look at this. I was like, we've stopped everything before and we've started and we've rebuilt again. I was just like, I'm not happy what I'm doing. I'm doing too much. You're not happy where you are. Let's just take a moment. And it was kind of like we allowed ourselves to go back down to the bottom of a mountain and go, right, okay, it's not that mountain. We don't want to stay on that mountain anymore. Let's just completely remodel what we want to do. But first, let's have some fun. So we released some assets and we went off in 2023. I mean, you probably saw, Emma, we were just like, we were away every month. We were just like, this is life. And it was just, I think one of the biggest catalysts at the time was one of my dearest and oldest friends. She'd been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and she died very suddenly last year. And again, it was just like, you're feeling like you're having a heart attack. I'm overly stressed. It's just like, life is too short. Life is too short. She was 47 and left 2 kids. And I was just like, James, I don't want you to die and leave me with our boys. They need you. I need you. And we've got this big dream to like die in our 90s. You know, it's like, let's just chill and enjoy life right now. And at the end of last year, we're like, right, the the money is all gone. What are we gonna do? I mean, we're not on the breadline, but you know, it's like the fun money is gone. Now we need to do some like serious kind of like decision making. And it was amazing. Just like in January, we were like, oh my God, this is getting a bit scary now. We don't really know what we're doing. We decided to go down to Cornwall. And I just remember thinking, it's only a matter of time. We've got the dream. We know what we want. We know what we're creating. We know what we're building. And we know which paths we're going to take. And now it's just a matter of time. And I just kept saying that. And then fast forward 10, 12 weeks, I'm like, holy fuck, I'm in sabotage because everything we wanted had happened and more. And I'm like, did that actually just happen? So I'm now at the top of this next mountain, just thinking, oh my God, I've achieved everything I set out to achieve, but I don't want to go down another mountain. I want to stay here, enjoy this. This is the mountain that I'm just going to stay on and get the chairlift and the chairlift and this chairlift and ski and have fun and have cocktails and just enjoy my life now. And that's where we are.
Oh, wow. Firstly, thank you for sharing all of that, because I think it just really paints a picture of all the trials and tribulations of life. And like I feel like we talk about resilience a lot, right? So here in front of me is such a resilient person, but actually there are, I think part of that resilience is built through actually allowing ourselves to be on the other side of it, in terms of have like recognize that we need support. We are tired, like beyond tired, and like this cannot go on. Something has to give. So I think like what's your, like when you're helping people heal themselves happy in the earlier days, what are some of those, you know, most women that kind of present to you, and I know you work with the guys as well, but when they present to you, like there's, I imagine, because it's similar with the lady that comes to me, but it's like there's this badge of honor that like they don't want to take off, because it's like, but I had this facade that I have to keep up. So like, how do we start to like say it's okay to take off that mask and just like let things crumble if that's what it feels like it needs to happen?
You know, I won't even use my words. I'll use what my best friend said to me, one of my dearest friends. I went to see her just as I'd kind of like decided to leave corporate, and I was a bit broken. And she said to me, I just said, oh my God, I feel like such a failure for giving up on this corporate career. You know, my dad told me I could have it all and be at the top of my game. And I feel such a failure. And she just looked me in the eye. She said, Ali, it's not failing. It's fucking courageous what you're doing to make the right choice for you and your family. It's courage. It's courage to make a decision and an acknowledgement of this is no longer working for me, and therefore it's not failure. Failure would have been to stay.
Yes.
Failure would have been to continue to do something that was killing me and killing my family and destroying everything just because of what? Pride. And I was just like, oh my God, that was all I needed to hear in that moment, was to just say, okay, you're so right. And now I'm just, all I'm going to do is have the courage to walk away and walk into something. And sorry, courage to walk away, I think. Courage to walk away. And I would then say the curiosity to walk forward. Wouldn't you? Isn't that what it is? It's the courage to walk away and the curiosity to find out what's next. You know, without knowing. And I think the resilience piece that you were just talking about there is, the resilience comes from knowing that you have got the ability to face the worst thing that could ever possibly happen to you and still be okay. And unfortunately that did happen to me, and I was okay. And that has given me resilience because I survived it. And now when I look forward is it's like, you know, the worst things could happen again, but I know I will be okay in those moments. I will survive it because I've got the people and I've got the skills, and I've got it because every time I take that courageous step, I learn something new and I grow strength in myself. And it's that courage that you can keep building within yourself from keeping on walking away from the things that are killing you. That's the resilience, because you're growing stronger every time you walk away.
And even in those, like in the depths of the other side of the mountain, like what is it that keeps you hopeful that like this isn't the end, this isn't it, I'm not going to stay here forever?
Yeah, because you're not. Well, like I said in January, it's just like, it's only a matter of time became such a powerful mantra. You can't stay at the bottom forever.
Yeah.
Just like you can't, well, I am going to stay at the top forever now, but you know, do you know what I mean? It's just like the whole point is like the roller coaster. It's just like the excitement comes from the ups and the downs, and knowing that the ebbs and the flows of life are all there. I mean, we can use every analogy under the sun, but it's just like that balance of effort and ease and living and resting and all of it. It's just like the give and the take. So if you're in that kind of moment of shit, I'm at rock bottom, it's just like, oh, take a moment, just take a moment and then just go, okay, right, okay, let's go again. Let's go again. And I think, you know, I think maybe it's manifested so heavily for me. I look at my human design now, and that was just like, oh, well, of course, you know, I'm a line 3/6. That explained it. And when I heard that, I was like, it was not in vain. It was not in vain. That makes me feel quite emotional. It was not in vain, because now I can embrace my line 6. I've got so much wisdom and so much knowledge from all of the fuck ups and the perceived failures and all of the sliding down the mountaintop. And, you know, some of those slides were like like when I left the Asda one, it was like, yes, you know, it wasn't like a plummeting to my death. It was like, oh, thank Christ for that. This is fun. And you get to the bottom and it's like, okay, let's go. I had the energy then to like race my way back up the next one. And now I'm just kind of like, right, I'm just going to go and get the chairlift on this next one, but I'm not going to go down.
I love that. But when you got to the end of your story, you were kind of like, and I'm just here now. And there is that presence, the present moment, and we can't not talk about where you're at the moment in terms of like your brand and your message and this, just the joy in the present moment and all that joy. I just, when I hear the word joy, I just think of Ali. Like, honestly, I love it. So I know that kind of came about in this like last iteration of kind of business. So talk to us about like the work you're doing today with.
Do you know what? There was so much resistance, I have to say, to the joy piece. There was so much resistance. I can't quite believe it. And it was at the end of last year, and I was stood with all of my A4 bits of paper. I am still a girl of the 80s. I've got my paper and my coloured pens and my post-it notes. None of this crazy stuff on the internet, you know, web. It's just like, I need my pens, I need my colours, and I need to just get everything out of my head. And I think I found it really hard because I was trying to almost like pigeonhole myself. It was like, well, am I a health coach, or am I a mindfulness coach? Am I a mindset coach? Am I a manifestation coach? Am I a business coach? And I was just like, oh my God, why am I trying to just choose one thing? I was just like, I want to do it all. So if I'm going to do it all, what is the one common thing that kind of like ties it all up? And I was just like, well, it's all brought me joy. I was like, oh, fuck, I'm a joy coach. And it was literally just as simple as that. And the strangest thing that happened was I was sat there and I just like written joy on this page, and I was just like, oh, okay. And then I was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to hand it over, and I'm going to hand it over, and I'm going to trust, and I know that I'm going to be given a sign, because I've now got into this whole woo-woo stuff of the universe giving me what I need and telling me that, yes, that's it. And I was like, right, I'm going to walk away and just see and watch the signs. Am I on the right path? Am I on the right path? Give me a sign. And it was really strange. I was going through the perimenopause. Another thing that happened last year was like the perimenopause, like cooked in full blast for me. And the only thing that they couldn't sort out with HRT was my heart palpitations. So I was seeing doctors at the time to try and work out what was going on. And my dad had a dicky heart, and my granddad had a dicky heart. And my dad was like, have you sorted out your dicky heart yet? And I was like, oh my God. So I got the book off the shelf. You probably got it on yourself, but Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And I went to the back to go and have a look and see what it said about heart. And do you know what it said, Emma? You can only imagine. It just said, joy, 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 joy. You need to bring more joy in your life. And I was like, okay, I got you. It's joy then. So it was almost like I get to share my message of joy and heal my heart at the same time. So it was just like, then I was like full steam, right? How do I want to get my message of joy out there? What ways over the course of the last 6 years have I enjoyed it most? How do I want to do it? And let's just go full throttle with the whole joy thing. And it has been the most incredible 12-week ride from just going, that's it, that's where I'm going, this is the message, this is what I'm doing, this is how I want to do it. And I've been doing it on stages, which I love to do. I love speaking on podcasts. I've got defined throat chakra with pretty much all my gates. So it's just like, I'm a storyteller in my lines 3/6. It's just like, just do it that way. And it's been the most amazing ride. And it's just like, I am that coach, just like you said. It's like anyone who says joy, they're like, oh, Ali Mortimer. Well, Ali Mortimer, that joy coach. I'm like, oh my God, how quickly did that happen? And I'm up in my shower going, well, that was a bit quick.
It's pretty impressive by my standards as well. It's like I love that. And I think just by watching you on social media, you just radiate joy. So you are the living, breathing embodiment of what you teach. And I just think that's why it's successful, right? Because you are joy.
Yeah. I am joy, and I love that. I am joy, and one of my favorite movies. I don't. You may or may not have seen it. Is oh my God, it's with the joy characters. Or Inside Out, Pixar movie.
Oh, the kids animated one.
It's animated one, and there's is one of the things that I love to help people understand, and especially my sons who are teenagers. It was amazing, and it was just saying we all have these voices in our heads. I have a lot of very loud voices. You know, we've got, and I know so many women do, the imposter, the saboteur. You've got all of these. And one of the things that one of my very early coaches, and well, she wasn't a coach, she was a therapist, helped me understand were all my voices that were in my head so that I could recognize who was speaking. And it was like this acknowledgement of that's my saboteur, that's my cheerleader, that's my voice of compassion, that's my mum just shitting on me. That's, you know, this kind of like, and it's just like, that is not my thought and that's not my belief.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was watching this, it was just like, joy is you get to let joy lead. You get to let joy lead. And that doesn't mean to say that anger, frustration, guilt, sadness, shame, disgust aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're not as loud as joy, and joy loves them all for being there and being part of their journey. And that was just such a beautiful visual for me to say you can lead with joy. And that isn't to shut out those other voices. It's just about saying you can let joy lead them all. And I love that. And friends, when I was going through my difficult time, and I was being very open about what was going on in my blog, people would send me joy, the little joy dolls all the time. And I had them around my house. So when it was like joy, I was just like, oh shit, I'm joy. So I went to have my hair done last week and I was like, I think we might have to dye my hair blue.
Oh,
So it was like it all wraps up. I mean, it's just such a fun story to
it really is.
about.
It is a really fun story. And Buddy's come to say
Hello,
hello.
buddy.
So with that, then, where can people find you, and what's the best place to connect?
The best place, I think, is the place that I love to hang out most is on Instagram. So I'm just simply XO Ali Mortimer. That is the best place to come and find me. All of the information is there. That's where I typically hang out every day and share what I'm eating for breakfast, to how I'm spreading joy in the day, to kind of just like the tools and the tips and the strategies that I'm personally using in order to help me move through what continues to be, you know, a life that throws curveballs, because it's just, I don't believe in just showing just the nice things that happen. I do believe in sharing what's going on behind the scenes, like the fact that I'm crying in the shower today and working through a whole load of sabotage, or the fact that my sons, you know, are going through their GCSEs and trying to get them to sit down and work. It's just like, this is mum life, but I can let joy lead in all of it. Let joy lead in all of it.
Love that. You are such an inspiration. I absolutely love you.
I
And
love you too, darling. Thank you so much for having me.
oh no, thank you. I will leave the notes in the link in the show notes to go and find Ali, and we're going to do a little side excerpt now, so that will come soon sometime. Watch out for that. And in the meantime, guys, take care. Thank you so much, Ali, again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Take care.